Oh man, so today is that dreaded day when quantitative tightening starts to happen.
4 hikes plus QT, quantitative tightening.
For just the second time in modern history,
we see quantitative tightening actually start
as the Federal Reserve tries to draw down its unprecedented $9 trillion balance sheet. That's more than double what the central bank had on hand before the pandemic.
I would just stress how uncertain the effect is of shrinking the balance sheet.
The hope is that tighter monetary policy will cool 4-decade high inflation.
We are always throwing Hail Mary passes.
This one's called quantitative tightening, and it's today's word on the street. Quantitative tightening, or QT, is a contractionary monetary policy where a central bank reduces the size of its balance sheet. But to wrap our heads around that, we have to first talk about its counterpart, quantitative easing, or QE. That's when the Federal Reserve buys bonds on the open market to pump money into a struggling economy. That gives institutions like banks more liquidity, which encourages more lending, which stimulates spending. Now those bonds go on the Fed's balance sheet. The Fed did this after the 2008 financial crash, and again when COVID hit.
Quantitative tightening, then, is the exact opposite. That's when the Federal Reserve says, oh my God, there's too much money in the economy. We think the economy needs to have less money in it.
In that case, the central bank has a couple of options for QT. Resell its bonds on the open market, or simply let bonds mature without replacing them, which is passive tightening. That's what the Fed started doing in June.
If the Fed owns a security and it matures, it means that the issuer of the security has to pay off the owner of it. That money is flowing out of the private sector to the Federal Reserve, and they just don't recirculate that money.
But the last time the Fed tried quantitative tightening, the stock market started to spook.
They tried it, they got smacked in the face by what the stock market told them, and they turned around and stopped doing that again.
And back then, the max pace was running off $50 billion a month. The Fed's goal this time is to ramp up to 95.
2.5 to 3 trillion is the number out there in the market for how much quantitative tightening we have to now endure.
With inflation reaching 8.6%, the consensus is there's not much of a choice. The Fed has to do what it can to cool inflation, even if it triggers a recession.
Right now, it's kind of sunny, things are doing fine. Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way. We just don't know if it's a minor one or Superstorm Sandy.
Now that you've got the gist on quantitative tightening, what term do you want to explain next in Word on the Street? Give us your ideas in the comments.